What is up, everybody? We are on day 140 of our Bible in a Year series, finishing up Nehemiah today, and we do have 4 chapters to read today, so I'm going to go ahead and jump straight in. Chapter 10. Those whose seals were on the document were the governor of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah and Zedekiah, Sariah, Azariah, Jeremiah, Pashur, Amariah, Malkijah, Hattush, Shebani, Maluk, Haram, Meremoth, Obadiah, Daniel, Ginnethon, Baruch, Meshullam, Abijah, Mijamin, Maziah, Bilgai, and Shemaiah. These were the priests. The Levites were Jeshua, son of Azaniah, Benui, the sons of Henadad, Kadmiel, and their brothers, Shebaniah, Hodiah, Kalida, Peliah, Hanan, Micah, Rahab, Hashabiah, Zachar, Sherebiah, Shebaniah, Hodiah, Bani, Baninu. The heads of the people were Parash, Pahath, Moab, Elam, Zatu, Bani, Buni, Asgad, Bebai, Adonijah, Bigvay, Adin, Atir, Hezekiah, Azur, Hodiah, Hashem, Bezai, Harif, Anathoth, Nebai, Magpiesh, Meshullam, Hezir, Mishezebel, Zadok, Jedua, Pelitzia, Hanan, Eniah, Hoshea, Hananiah, Hashab, Halohesh, Pilha, Shobek, Rahum, Hashabnah, Masiah, Ahijah, Hanan, Anan, Maluk, Haram, Banah. The rest of the people, the priests, Levites, gatekeepers, singers, and temple servants, along with their wives, sons, and daughters, and everyone who is able to understand, and who separated themselves from the surrounding peoples to obey the law of God, join with their noble brothers and commit themselves to with a sworn oath to follow the law of God given through God's servant Moses, and to obey carefully all the commands, ordinances, and statutes of the Lord our God. We will not give our daughters in marriage to the surrounding peoples, and will not take their daughters as our wives for our sons. When the surrounding peoples bring merchandise or any kind of grain to sell on the Sabbath day, we will not buy from them on the Sabbath or a holy day. We will also leave the land uncultivated in the 7th year, and will cancel every debt. We will impose the following commands on ourselves: to give 1/8 of an ounce of silver yearly for the service of the house of our God, the bread displayed before the Lord, the daily grain offering, the regular burnt offering, the Sabbath, and new moon offerings, the appointed festivals, the holy things, the sin offerings to atone for Israel and for all the work of the house of our God. We have cast lots among the priests, Levites, and the people for the donation of wood by our ancestral families at the appointed times each year. They are to bring the wood to our God's house to burn on the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. We will bring the first fruits of our land and of every fruit tree to the Lord's house year by year. We will also bring the firstborn of our sons and our livestock as presented by the law, and will bring the firstborn of our herds and flocks to the house of our God. To the priests who serve in our God's house, we will bring a loaf from our first batch of dough. To the priests at the storerooms of the house of our God, we will also bring the first fruits of our grain offerings of every fruit tree, and of the new wine and fresh oil. 1/10 of our land's produce belongs to the Levites, for the Levites are to collect the 1/10 offering in our agricultural towns. A priest from Aaron's descendants is to accompany the Levites when they collect the 10th, and the Levites are to take 1/10 of this offering to the storerooms of the treasury in the house of our God. For the Israelites and the Levites are to bring the contribution of grain, new wine, and fresh oil to the storerooms where the articles of the sanctuary are kept, and where the priests who minister are, along with the gatekeepers, and singers, we will not neglect the house of our God. Chapter 11. Now leaders of the people stayed in Jerusalem. The rest of the people cast lots for 1 out of 10 to come to live in Jerusalem, the holy city, while the other 9/10 remained in their towns. The people blessed all who volunteered to live in Jerusalem. These are the heads of the province who stayed in Jerusalem, but the villages of Judah each lived on his own property in their towns. The Israelites, priests, Levites, temple servants, and descendants of Solomon's servants, while some of the descendants of Judah and Benjamin settled in Jerusalem. Judah's descendants: Othniah, son of Uzziah, son of Zechariah, son of Amariah, son of Shephatiah, son of Mahalalel, of Perez's descendants, and Maaseiah, son of Baruch, son of Kol-Hoseh, son of Haziah, son of Adiah, son of Jorib, son of Zechariah, a descendant of the Shilonite. The total number of Perez's descendants who settled in Jerusalem was 468 capable men. These were Benjamin's descendants: Salu, son of Meshullam, son of Joed, son of Pedaiah, son of Koliah, son of Maaseiah, son of Ithiel, son of Jeshiah, and after him Gabai and Salai, 928. Joel, son of Zichri, was the officer over them, and Judah, son of Hasenuah, was second in command over the city. The priest: Jediah, son of Jorib, Jachin, and Sarai, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshullam, son of Zadok, son of Merioth, son of Athib, the chief official of God's temple, and their relatives who did the work at the temple, 822. Adiah, son of Jorahim, son of Pelala, son of Amzi, son of Zechariah, son of Pashur, son of Malchijah, and his relatives, the heads of the families, 242. Amashe, son of Azriel, son of Ahazi, son of Meshillamoth, son of Immer, and their relatives, capable men, 128. Zabdiel, son of Haggadolam, was their chief. The Levites: Shemaiah, son of Hashab, son of Azrikam, son of Hashabiah, son of Buni, and Shabbathai, and Jozabad, from the heads of the Levites who surprised the work outside the house of God: Mattaniah, son of Micah, son of Zabdi, son of Asaph, the one who began the thanksgiving in prayer. Bakbukiah, that's the name, second among his relatives, and Abda, son of Shemua, son of Galal, son of Jeduthun, all the Levites in the holy city, 284. The gatekeepers: Akub, Talmon, and their relatives who guarded the city gate, 172. The rest of Israel, the priests and the Levites, were in all the villages of Judah, each on his own inherited property. The temple servants lived in Ophel. Ziha and Gishpa supervised the temple servants. The leader of the Levites in Jerusalem was Uzzi, son of Bani, son of Hashabiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micah, the descendants of Asaph, who were singers for the service of God's house. There were, in fact, a command of the king regarding them, and an ordinance regulating the singers' daily task. Pethahiah, son of Meshezabel, of the descendants of Zerah, son of Judah, was the king's agent in every matter concerning the people. As for the farming settlements with their fields, some of Judah's descendants lived in Kiriath Arba and Dibon and their surrounding villages, and Jekabzeel and its settlements, in Jeshua, Moladah, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, and Beersheba and its surrounding villages, in Ziklag and Mekona and its surrounding villages, in Rimmon, Zorah, Jarmuth, and Zanoah, and Adullam with their settlements, in Lachish with its fields, and Azekah, and its surrounding villages. So they settled from Beersheba to Hinnom Valley. Benjamin's descendants from Geba, Michmash, Aijah, and Bethel and its surrounding villages, Anathoth, Nob, Ananiah, Hazor, Ramah, Gittim, Hadid, Zeboim, Nebalat, Lod, and Ono. In Craftsman Valley, some of the Judean divisions of Levites were in Benjamin. Chapter 12. These are the priests and Levites who went up with Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and with Jeshua, Sariah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Maluk, Hattush, Shechaniah, Rehum, Meremoth, Edu, Ginethoi, Abijah, Majamin, Madiah, Bilgah, Shemaiah, Jorab, Jediah, Salu, Amek, Hilkiah, Jediah. These were the heads of the priests and their relatives in the days of Jeshua, the Levites. Jeshua, Benui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, and Mattaniah, he and his relatives were in charge of the songs of praise. Bakbukiah, Uni, and their relatives stood opposite them in the services. Jeshua fathered Joachim, Joachim fathered Eliashib, Eliashib fathered Joiada, Joiada fathered Jonathan, and Jonathan fathered Jeduah. In the days of Joachim, the heads of the priestly families were Mariah and Sariah, Hananiah and Jeremiah, Meshullam and of Ezra. I guess all of those should have been of and not and. Jehonanan of Amariah, Jonathan of Maluki, Joseph of Shebaniah, Adna of Harib, Helkiah of Marioth, Zechariah of Edu, Meshullam of Gineathon, Zikri of Abijah, Piltai of Moadiah of Miniman, Shamua of Bilgah, Jehonathan of Shemiah, Mattaniah of Jorib, Uzai of Jediah, Kalai of Salai, Eber of Amok, Hashabiah of Hilkiah, and Nathaniel of Jediah. In the days of Eliashib, Joiada, Jehonan, and Jeduah, the heads of the families of the Levites and priests were recorded while Darius the Persian ruled. Levi's descendants, the family heads, were recorded in the book of the historical events during the days of Jehonan, son of Eliashib, the heads of the Levites, Hashabiah, Sherebiah, and Jeshua, son of Kadmiel, along with their relatives opposite them, gave praise and thanks, division by division, as David the man of God had prescribed. This included Mattaniah, Bakbukiah, and Obadiah. Meshullam, Talmon, and Akab were gatekeepers who guarded the storerooms at the city gates. These served in the days of Joachim, son of Jeshua, son of Jozadak, and in the days of Nehemiah the governor, and Ezra the priest and scribe. At the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sent for the Levites wherever they lived and brought them to Jerusalem to celebrate the joyous dedication with thanksgiving and singing accompanied by cymbals, harps, and lyres. The singers gathered from the region around Jerusalem, from the settlements of the Netophathites, from Beth Gilgal, and from the fields of Geba and Asmaveth, for they had built settlements from themselves around Jerusalem. After the priests and Levites had purified themselves, they purified the people, the city gates, and the wall. Then I brought the leaders of Judah up on top of the wall, and I appointed 2 large processions that gave thanks. One went to the right of the wall, toward the dung gate. Hoshea and half the leaders of Judah followed, along with Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, Jeremiah, and some of the priest's sons with trumpets, and Zechariah son of Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micaiah, son of Zachar, son of Asaph, followed, as well as his relatives, Shemaiah, Azareel, Malil, Gilali, Mai, Nathaniel, Judah, and Hanani, with the musical instruments of David, the man of God. Ezra the scribe went in front of them at the fountain gate. They climbed the steps of the city of David on the ascent of the wall, and went above the house of David to the water gate on the east. The second Thanksgiving procession went to the left, and I followed it with half the people along the top of the wall, past the tower of the ovens to the broad wall above the Ephraim gate, and by the old gate, the fish gate, the tower of Hananel, and the tower of 100 to the sheep gate. They stopped at the gate of the guard. The two Thanksgiving processions stood in the house of God. So did I and half the officials accompanying me as... Oops. Went too far. Okay, we're in verse 40. If you're just listening, I accidentally clicked and skipped ahead to the next chapter. So now to find my spot. The two Thanksgiving, verse 40, the two Thanksgiving processions stood in the house of God. So did I and half the officials accompanying me, as well as the priests, Eliakim, Maaseiah, Miniman, Micaiah, Eloniah, Zechariah, and Hananiah, with trumpets, and Maaseiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzai, Jehohanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. Then the singers sang with Jezreiah as the leader. On the day they offered great sacrifices and rejoiced because God had given them great joy. The women and children also celebrated, and Jerusalem's rejoicing was heard far away. On that same day, men were placed in charge of the rooms that housed the supplies, contributions, first fruits, and tenths. The legally required portions for the priests and Levites were gathered from the village fields because Judah was grateful to its priests and Levites who were serving. They performed the service of their God and the service of purification along with the singers and gatekeepers, as David and his son Solomon had prescribed. For long ago, in the days of David and Asaph, there were heads of singers and songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. So in the days of Zerubbabel and Nehemiah, all Israel contributed the daily portions for the singers and gatekeepers. They also set aside daily portions for the Levites, and the Levites set aside daily portions for Aaron's descendants. Chapter 13. At that time, the book of Moses was read publicly to the people. The command was found written in it that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever enter the assembly of God, because they did not meet the Israelites with food and water. Instead, they hired Balaam against them to curse them. But our God turned the curse into a blessing. When they heard the law, they separated all those of mixed descent from Israel. Now, before this, the priest Eliashib had been put in charge of the storerooms of the house of our God. He was a relative of Tobiah and had prepared a large room for him when they had previously stored the grain offerings and the frankincense, the articles and the tenths of grain, new wine, and fresh oil prescribed for the Levite singers and gatekeepers, along with the contributions for the priests. While all this was happening, I was not in Jerusalem, because I had returned to King Artaxerxes of Babylon in the 32nd year of his reign. It was only later that I asked the king for a leave of absence, so I could return to Jerusalem. Then I discovered the evil that Eliashib had done on behalf of Tobiah, and provided him a room in the courts of the God's house. I was greatly displeased, and threw all of Tobiah's household possessions out of the room. I ordered that the rooms be purified, and I had the articles of the house of God restored there, along with the grain offering and frankincense. I also found out that because the portions of the Levites had not been given, each of the Levites and the singers performing the service had gone back to his own field. Therefore, I rebuked the officials, asking, "Why has the house of God been neglected?" I gathered the Levites and singers together and stationed them at their posts. Then all Judah brought a tenth of the grain, new wine, and fresh oil into the storehouses. I appointed as treasurers of over the storehouses the priest Shelmiah, the scribe Zadok of Pedaiah, of the Levites with Hanan, son of Zachar, son of Mattaniah, to assist them because they were considered trustworthy. They were responsible for the distribution to their colleagues. Remember me for this, my God, and don't erase the deeds of faithful love I have done for the house of my God and for its servants. At that time I saw people in Judah treading wine presses on the Sabbath. They were also bringing in stores of grain and loading them on donkeys, along with wine, grapes, and figs. All kinds of goods were being brought to Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. So I warned them against selling food on that day. The Tyrians living there were importing fish and all kinds of merchandise and selling them on the Sabbath to the people of Judah and Jerusalem. I rebuked the nobles of Judah and said to them, Why, why is this evil you are doing, profaning the Sabbath day? Didn't your ancestors do the same, so that our God brought all this disaster on us and on the city? And now you are rekindling his anger against Israel by profaning the Sabbath? When shadows began to fall on the city gates of Jerusalem, just before the Sabbath, I gave orders that the gates be closed and not opened until after the Sabbath. I posted some of my men at the gates so that no goods could enter during the Sabbath day. Once or twice, merchants and those who sell all kinds of goods camped outside Jerusalem, but I warned them, Why are you camping in front of the wall? If you do it again, I'll use force against you. After that, they did not come again on the Sabbath. Then I instructed the Levites to purify themselves and guard the city gates in order to keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember me for this also, my God, and look on me with compassion according to the abundance of your faithful love. In those days I also saw Jews who had married women from Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod or the language of one of the other peoples, but could not speak Hebrew. I rebuked them, cursed them, beat some of their men, and pulled out their hair. I forced them to take an oath before God and said, You must not give your daughters in marriage to their sons, or take their daughters as wives for your sons or yourselves. Didn't King Solomon of Israel sin in matters like this? There was not a king like him among many nations. He was loved by his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Yet foreign women drew him into sin. Why then should we hear about you doing all this terrible evil and acting unfaithfully against our God by marrying foreign women? Even the sons of Jehoiada, son of the high priest Eliashib, had become a son-in-law to Sanballat the Horonite, so I drove him away from me. Remember then, my God, for defiling the priesthood as well as the covenant of the priesthood and the Levites. So I purified them from everything foreign and assigned specific duties to each of the priests and Levites. I also arranged for the donation of wood at the appointed times and for the first fruits. Remember me, my God, with favor. And that is it. That is it for Nehemiah. And we will get in our questions because I know we're going to be pushing it on time. In question 1, the covenant in chapter 10 commits the people to specific acts of obedience. How does this intentional pledge challenge us to consider the role of deliberate choices in sustaining a vibrant relationship with God? I think I feel like I'm bringing this up almost every day, but the choices we make, right? I do believe we have free will. The choices that we make can hurt or harm our relationship with God. God is always there. God's always the same. He's always extending out to us to have that relationship. Now, it's whether or not the relationship is there is on us to the extent that if we decide not to pursue God, God is not going to force us. So the the deliberate choices that we have can either make a good or bad relationship with God on our part. Question 2. Nehemiah's reforms in chapter 12 and 13 confront neglect and sin. How might his zeal prompt us to reflect on the necessity of ongoing vigilance to protect our devotion from worldly influences? You notice, like, almost as soon as the godly leader that is Nehemiah, as soon as he's gone, it seems like they go right back to what they were doing before. This is not unnormal or unnatural. Excuse me. But this is why leadership can be so important. But also, just zeal among the people, I think, can be a very important thing. Even if, let's say, it's not necessarily bad leadership, but it's just not great leadership. If you have some people that are in the fellowship, excuse me, in the fellowship or in the body that are zealous for doing what God wants, that can help guide a inexperienced or and not ready leader. It won't make up for not having a good godly leader, but it can help negate some of the negatives, I think. But the zeal is what is big there, and zeal specifically for God and what God wants. That is very important in leadership. Question 3. The book ends with Nehemiah's prayer for God's remembrance despite setbacks. How does this plea invite us to wrestle with the tension between human frailty and the hope of God's enduring faithfulness to his people? Like I said, we have free will, and God is not going to force us into a relationship with him. It's our choice. So there's the human frailty part of it, but God's enduring faithfulness is that if we just turn to him, he will meet us. If you seek God, you will find God. If you genuinely seek God, you will find God. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that for anybody. If you seek God, you will find God. Period. End of story. He wants relationship with us. He wants relationship with you. And all you have to do is reach out. All right. That's it for today. We are pushing it on time. But tomorrow we will be starting Esther. It'll be good stuff. Subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff. I enjoy reading comments as much as I can. So interacting with the comments as much as I can as well. If this has been a blessing to you, share it with somebody else. Word of mouth is the best way the podcast spread. So you can help somebody else get in and start getting some benefit from this. Maybe have a person that they can read along with and help them stick with a daily Bible reading plan. That's the whole purpose that we're doing this whole Bible in a year for. So it's good. Like I said, tomorrow we will be going into Esther, and that's a very interesting book. I'm not going to dive into it too much right now just because we're coming up on time. But I will do a little introduction tomorrow before we get into it. Very interesting book. Another one that's, I think, very overlooked. But it's good stuff. Make sure you come back for that. Thanks. God bless.